Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Roll 'em If You Got 'em intro recording number 4 for Sir Jaime Lannister here. I'm Carl, as always joined by Dakota.
Hello, everybody.
So, we've for some time now wanted to get into more Dungeons and Dragons content. We haven't been real sure the kind of things we'd want to do, so we decided to start taking pop culture-ish kind of figures and make them as Dungeons and Dragons characters. The first one we have here is Jaime Lannister. This one's pretty straightforward. Coming soon-ish, we're hoping to kind of branch out in some of these to get sort of out of the box. But anyhow, we're gonna start with Jaime Lannister here, and what makes Jaime Lannister to make him a Dungeons and Dragons character. Um, the big three: race, class, and background. For race, just to stick to this as true to the source material as possible, we're going to go human, uh, particularly the variant human. We'll get more into that. Class, we're going to go fighter with the battle master subclass. Background is going to be noble. The race, you can really add flavor here, kind of whatever you want. Uh, Playing with some of the cultural norms of different races could lead to some really good RP opportunities and a lot of fun. Things that may seem barbaric to a drow would be along the lines of a cultural norm to a lizard folk. I think for most races, eating people is that's not a thing that they consider, whereas a lizard folk, that's just meats on the menu tonight.
Mhm.
Like, they're good with it. So that little things like that, if you kind of go down the rabbit hole on some backgrounds and go, oh, like this is cool. I want him to be a noble in this sort of culture. Could lead to a lot of fun RP. Particularly for this video, though, we're gonna go with the variant human option. Okay, the variant human, you increase 2 ability scores by 1. You gain proficiency in a skill of your choice, and you gain a feat at level 1. That is the main reason we're taking this, because to build Jaime out the way that we want to build Jaime out, we're going to take a lot of feats. We want to have a lot of feats as options. You only get them every so many levels, so grabbing one to start the game, just it marks one off the list for you.
Yep. Class-wise, we are looking mainly at a fighter here. Fighting style will take dueling. Basically, in dueling, you'll get +2 damage when only wielding one weapon. So you can wield your one weapon and a shield, and just be pretty much standard like sword and board, like Jaime would be doing. Then at level 3, you choose your martial archetype. There is the champion, battle master, eldritch knight. Like we said earlier, we're gonna go with the battle master because it unlocks maneuvers, which are almost like cool combat-y type of things that you can do if you're not familiar with the fighter. It lets you like expend a dice to do a thing. Um, uh, so like I said, we got maneuvers. We're gonna try to stick to some that are more like charisma-based abilities. They do have a few different things with them. Um, when you're going through, just kind of remembering that Jamie's that noble. He's not just like a vanguard troop. Uh, so we're going to kind of just lean into that aspect of these maneuvers. And then these are all the examples you got here. Um, Commanding presence, tactical assessment, rally, precision attack, propose, fading attack, commander strike. They all kind of do different things. We're going to cover some of them. I'll just say I know we're not going to cover all these, but some of them are more like if you wanted to go more of like the dueling side, you could really just take some of the more like dueling ones. If you
Mm-hmm.
want to go more of that commander, leader, noble type of side, you can just take those other ones. Jamie can kind of go both ways because he kind of does both of those things.
Sure,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah,
but
he's certainly renowned for his fighting ability, but then looking at the charisma side of things, like his reputation precedes him,
mhm.
sort
Yeah,
of thing.
yeah, I know too from like the maneuver side because I played Battle Master a few times. I know like number 5 their repose, which is essentially like you get attacked and they miss you, you get to like make a free attack. That's
Mm-hmm.
one of them. Just kind of get into it a little early here, which I'm like, yeah, like Jamie would totally be that like you know
Right.
counter attack style,
Yeah. Yeah.
but we'll cover that here
All right. So the
more.
first one here, Commander Strike is when you take the attack action on your turn, you can forego one of your attacks and use a bonus action to direct one of your companions to strike. When you do so, choose a friendly creature who can see or hear you and expend one superiority die. The creature can immediately use its reaction to make one weapon attack, adding the superiority die to the attacker's damage roll. Um, that's just a general, like, yes, Jaime can fight, but he's kind of, in the back directing the troops a lot. And if he sees the opportunity for one of his allies who would be, it'd be more beneficial for them to attack than him to attack this turn, then he would,
Mm-hmm.
command them to be like, hey, line it up again, buddy. Send it.
Yep, and it's pretty straightforward, and then you're getting that little bonus damage when it does connect.
Sure. Yep. Yeah, or maybe they're going to have advantage on their attack. Maybe the enemy's prone. All kinds of things. You're like, oh, it's much better for them to be taking this than for I.
Mm-hmm. The next one, you're commanding presence when you make a charisma intimidation. One of the, it's a charisma,
Mm-hmm.
charisma performance or a charisma persuasion check. You can expend one superiority die and add the superiority die to the ability check. So, you can really just lean into that whole charisma aspect of Jaime Lannister doing, intimidation mostly or persuasion. Not too much performance. He's not a performer, but um, your performance could be to intimidate, just kind of how you want to bend it.
Yeah.
So really just adding that. So I mean, you're getting the maneuver dice. I don't think we said it there. 1d8. So really, you can add a decent chunk to that, and you should already probably be getting a bonus off of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Since you're going to make this one of your higher
You're
scores.
probably already getting a couple of bonuses, and then adding a DA on top of everything else.
Yep.
It's nice. Rally. On your turn, you can use a bonus action to expend one superiority die to bolster the resolve of one of your companions. When you do so, choose a friendly creature who can see or hear you. That creature gains temporary hit points equal to the superiority die roll plus your charisma modifier. There's some cheese here. So I ran this ability once upon a time for a fighter, noble, blah, blah, blah. He was a tiefling, but anyhow, um, you get superiority dice back at the end of a short rest. So if your party finishes a long rest, you could rally all of your allies, really, and then give them temporary hit points at the end of the long rest that will last until they are either damaged and used or you take another long rest. So then after your long rest, you just take a short rest again before you go out for the day. You get all of your superiority dice back. This one's kind of up to your DM on how they want to play it. I told DM, I'm like, I'm going to do this after every long rest as long as you're giving us enough time. And tieflings have the 4 hour long rest, right?
Mm-hmm. I believe so.
I
Yeah. I mean,
believe
but
so.
there's other
So
races as well that have the 4 hour long
yeah,
rest.
so it was kind of one of them things where I'm like, I have the extra time. I'm not even taking the short rest to the group. I'm, you know, whatever. And it was like, hey, I'm gonna do this every time. And he's like, you know what, just roll one, and everyone will get the temp hit points, and then you can short rest before you head back out, basically.
Yeah.
At that one, ask your DM how he or she wants to play it prior to doing this, or they're just gonna roll their eyes every time you're gonna do this all the time. You're like, I'm gonna do this every chance you give me. Yes. Like, this one scales not great, so early on in the campaign, obviously getting 8 temporary hit points is a big deal when you only have characters that have 10 or 12. But then late in the campaign, when people have 60, 70 hit points, getting 8, not that big of a deal. So this would be one that is probably better to take sooner rather than later, really.
Yeah. Jumping back into the background now. Like we said, you're going to take noble. Um, People know that you're the important person. Everybody kind of loves you. Other nobles are going to at least respect you for being noble.
Yes. Per- Personality traits, bonds, flaws, ideals. You can pick the ones out of the book. You can just kind of come up with your own or take the ones in the book and sort of modify them. But at the end of the day, it's family first. It's that name first, that whatever your surname is going to be, whether you actually make it Jaime Lannister or not. I probably wouldn't, but whatever it is, like that family name is your North Star on 99% of decisions, okay? With the exception of the relation that you may or may not have with certain siblings. If you're a Game of Thrones fan, I don't need to elaborate any further on that. So, stats for Sir Jaime here. We kind of broke these down in like the top three are pretty interchangeable depending on how you want to play the character, and then the bottom three are, I would say, less interchangeable but still relatively interchangeable. So your top three: charisma, dexterity, and strength. If you want to play them as close to the source material as possible, I would go in this order. I'd go charisma, dex, and strength. Dex and strength, very easy argument to flip them, because when you think dex a lot of times in D&D, you think ranged attacks. That's not a conversation we're going to be having about Jaime. He's sword and board, he's melee. So you're probably going to be looking to run a finesse weapon then, but sort of do whatever you want. And I know it seems crazy, a fighter with their highest stat being charisma, but once you start using the battle maneuvers and all that stuff, trust me, it's a lot of fun with this guy. And then followed by constitution, intelligence, and wisdom. Um, Easy argument to even flip 3 and 4, really, if you're going to go dex build here. But I think wisdom, that one does kind of go last. If you think about the way that like Tywin treats Jaime a lot, it's because Tywin is so much more wise than Jaime, and he doesn't view Jaime that way, and Tywin probably knows Jaime better than anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so these are how I would build it if I was staying strict to the source material. If you're doing little things here and there to add flavor, you could certainly mix these up. It's not a big deal.
All right, and then feats. So you're gonna feat. You'll get one from the human variant at level 1, I believe, like we said.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get them at 4, 6, 8, 12, 14, 16, 19.
Yeah, fighters have a lot of chances to take feats here. I mean, you'd be looking at a total of 8 possible if you took them every time they were available.
Yep.
The feats that sort of make Jaime Jaime, and these are not in any particular order: defensive duelist, heavy armor master, mage slayer, martial adept, and mounted combat. Um, the defensive duelist here, when you're wielding a finesse weapon with which you are proficient and another creature hits you with a melee attack, you can use your reaction to add your proficiency bonus to your armor class for that attack, potentially causing the attack to miss you. Just a nice little, if they're within just a couple of points of missing your armor class, you can be like, I'll just choose to save it instead.
Mm-hmm.
A nice little, just, yeah. And
that also gives you an opportunity if you were like using some of those maneuvers to like use them at that point because you were missed with an attack. Very simple,
mm-hmm.
like stacking abilities.
Yes.
Next one here, Heavy Armor Master. You can use your armor to deflect strikes that would kill others. You gain the following benefits: increase your strength score by 1 to a maximum of 20. While you are wearing heavy armor, bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage that you take from non-magical attacks is reduced by 3. Basically, just making you more survivable in those combat scenarios.
Yep. I think this is
pretty simple, straightforward. But go ahead.
I think this is another great one to take early. Once again, 3 damage to a character that only has 15 hit points is a much bigger deal than 3 damage to a character that has 60 plus hit points.
Mm-hmm.
Also, later in the game, you're going to be more likely to run into magical attacks to where this feat is obsolete completely.
Mm-hmm.
So, another one where you think, hey, it's probably better to grab this sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and then you kind of always get the kicker with it too is you're getting the +1 to your strength score.
Yep,
So say you didn't like we had it down like 3 or 4 on that list, and we're like, oh, it's interchangeable. Say you made your strength, I don't know, we'll just say it's like a 14. It's kind of like higher middle of the road. I'm not sure where you rolled. Okay, now you bumped it up to another one to a 15. Like you're looking a little bit better,
yep,
um, for not really making it one of your better stats.
yeah, yes. Mage Slayer. Now, I understand. I know I've said right. Not a lot of magic in the Game of Thrones settings, but if you think about, for me, the pivotal moment in Jaime Lannister's development prior to the story, even, is when he kills the Mad King and becomes the Kingslayer. Well, the Mad King is kind of as close as you get in a mortal realm to magic in this setting as it comes. So I thought it just made sense that like Mage Slayer, if you were going purely source material flavor, like I think you take Mage Slayer very early on, and that becomes part of what you're known for. You know, you're known for dealing with evil magical entities. Um, it would be
Yeah,
great. The actual ability here, when a creature within 5 feet of you casts a spell, you can use your action to make a melee attack against that creature. I think there's more here. Yes. When you damage a creature that is concentrating on a spell, that creature has disadvantage on the saving throw it makes to maintain its concentration. You have advantage on saving throws against spells cast by creatures within 5 feet of you. So it works, and
yeah.
I think it's cool.
Basically, too, it's gonna as a playing standpoint, you're gonna want to get into the thick of it up in the front because you are a fighter. Um, and then it's like an extra way to get an extra attack without having all those extra attacks early. Like a fighter, like when you get your extra attack level 4 or 5, somewhere in
I
there.
think level 4.
Um, and sometimes when you're like early in those fights and you're just like swinging once, but like it just kind of rewards you for like rushing in on other monsters or characters or whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
then like letting you fight without having all your other attacks going on.
Yes.
Then the next martial adept, you have martial training that allows you to perform special combat maneuvers. You gain the following benefits. You learn 2 maneuvers of your choice from among those available to the battle master archetype in the fighter class. Um, this continue here. You gain one superiority die, which is a d6. This die is added to any superiority dice that you have from another source. This die is used to fuel your maneuvers. A superiority die is expended when you use it. You regain your superiority die when you do a short or long rest. It's a little bit different. So your superiority dice are d8s. This one is a d6. But basically, it's letting you just get more superiority dice. Um, and even to kind of like what we have here, just ask your DM about maybe changing it to be the same um, when you're at level 3. So just be like, hey, can these just all be D8s just to not make it as confusing to be like, well, I'm going to use a D6 on this one or a D8 on that one. If they don't let you, whatever, you just got to track a little bit harder. If not, you go from, um, you start with what, 3? Does this give you 2 extra, like we said?
The superiority dice are based off of.
It's like your level. I forget what it's really based off of, but I think you like at when you first select it at level 3, it's 3. Okay, just a little correction. You start with 4 superiority dice, and then they scale up as you go up in levels. You'll get more of them, and then at a certain point, they'll actually go from D8s to D10s and D10s to D12s, and they just get better as you play. So really, this is just going to allow you to add more dice to that pool of different values. But like we said, just talk to your DM about just making them the same, so it's a little bit easier to track. I mean, going from a D6 to an 8, it's not that huge of a deal. Like earlier in the game, it's a little bit more impactful,
Mhm.
but once you get higher levels, it's just less impactful because of what it
Yeah,
does.
the main thing here is you get two more of
Yeah,
those. Um,
maneuvers.
yes, yes, two. You get two more maneuvers. essentially. Once you hit level 3 than you normally would. But you only get one more use. So I'd be like, hey, do I really have to track this as a D6 or can this one like just
Yeah,
level up with the rest of them? Sure.
yeah.
And then finally, mounted combat. You are a dangerous foe to face while mounted. While you are mounted and aren't incapacitated, you gain the following benefits. You have advantage on melee attack rolls against any unmounted creature that is smaller than your mount. And you can force an attack targeted at your mount to target you instead if your mount is subjugated to an effect that allows it to make a dex saving throw and only take half damage. It instead takes no damage if it succeeds the saving throw and only half if it fails. Just another, you know, James Noble, he can afford a horse, probably a really nice horse, by the way, and it makes sense for him to be proficient in mounted combat, essentially.
Also, also too, thinking he's a noble, he participates in, the jousts and all that type of stuff. He knows
Yeah,
how to
the
he knows how to
tournaments and
he knows how to fight on horseback. I think this is one thing that in all the campaigns we've played is we don't ever really have mounted combat.
we
You know,
don't.
and I definitely think it's like one of those cool aspects that like could be explored more.
Yeah, so it doesn't, depending on the mount, of course, but it doesn't play great into like dungeon delving for
Right,
sure. But if you could get a different sort of mount on a dungeony character, it doesn't say it has to be a horse,
yeah.
right? It's just a mount. So you can find a way, get creative with this one for sure. Just to summarize here, family and name come first. Let that be your north star for pretty much all kinds of all your decisions. All right, never doubt yourself or your abilities. At the same time, putting yourself as harm's way. That's for poor people. All right, and you're not a poor. You're Jaime fucking Lannister, and just don't forget that, and don't ever let anyone else forget it either. But that's pretty much all we have for this. If you guys like this, please let us know that you would like to see more of these. I know we have some, oh, what would you call them, unconventional ideas for characters like this. I don't want to spoil too many things, but I know we have a couple like movie characters that we've talked about doing. Uh, Comedians, obviously they would be a bard of some sort. Uh, WWF, WWE guys, we've talked about. So there's lots of room in the space here. I had a lot of fun putting this together. I think Dakota did too, and just kind of like kicking ideas back and forth on like, oh, like it would make sense that they behave like this, so grab this ability, so on and so forth. Or like the Mage Slayer thing, where it's like, okay, it doesn't, it makes great lore sense, things like that. So this was a lot of fun. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and we'll have some more of these coming around the corner. So until next time, bye.
thanks for joining us, everybody. Bye.
Bye.